Welcome to the story of the Goldenrod. This model began more than a decade ago when I saw the feature on Sylvester 3 in the December 2012 issue of Hot Rod magazine. I was pretty much in awe of this car, and it actually inspired two models. This Bugatti rod was the first, but that's a story for another time. The amount of detail in Sylvester was incredible and well imagined. The amazing photos of it were an added bonus. After building the Bugatti rod, I thought I'd try a 32 Ford, because I'd never built one before. It would be different from Sylvester though. I had a parts box from this Revell 32 Ford Roadster that had been robbed of most of its bits and pieces, but the body was still intact. I also had one of these Revell 32 Ford 5-window kits, which has a real nice Hemi, along with some other unique parts, which got this project started. First up is always the mock-up. I wanted a deeply channeled body with some form of blown Hemi. When I placed the axle where it should be, it was obvious some major modifications would be needed. The floorboard was carefully removed from the kit frame. It was set aside as it would get reused later. Next, the frame was Z'd in the front and double Z'd in the back, with much of the rear frame being scratch-built from evergreen plastic. When compared to the stock frame, the modifications become pretty obvious. Moving on to the suspension, the hairpins found in the 5-window kit would get used with the drop front axle. These needed to be modified to make it even lower. The spring was carefully removed from the axle and would get attached to the bracket where the hairpins mount. This pushed the front axle out forward, allowing the spring to be beside the axle instead of on top of it. A bit scary in real life, which is why they call this suicide style. The front crossmember was thinned and repositioned to allow the front axle to have some bit of suspension travel. Moving to the rear suspension, this would have to be a totally different design. So I started with some 4-link parts I had in the parts box. These needed to be modified to fit the chassis. I cut the molded in links out and replaced them with brass rod at angles needed to position the axle where it needed to be. Here is the rear suspension mocked up. The axle is bottomed out on the frame. More on this later. The body is now in place, checking clearances and driveshaft angles. It was time to figure out the floor next. I used the tuck and roll seat and side panels from the 5-window kit. These are marked where they would have to be trimmed to fit the deeply channeled body. The leftover floor had the driveshaft tunnel cut out and it needed to be extensively raised to allow for the revised ride height. The 5-window kit also includes a 40 Ford dash, which is very cool, and I would be looking forward to detailing it later. By now, the model has most of the hard stuff worked out. It's time for the mock-up wheels to go away though. I plan to use the then new Tampo printed AMT wide white wall tires. The wheels would have to have custom offsets to fit right. A selection of wheel parts from both the 32 Roadster and 5-window were combined to create the custom offsets. The centers all had their outer lips ground off and various wheel backs were used to make the outer rims. Once the wheels were under control, some custom bodywork needed to be done. The Roadster body has depressions for the windshield frame. These were filled with portions of the kit windshield frame since I had another style in the parts box. One thing I really liked about Sylvester was the filled doors. This was done with evergreen strip superglued into the gap. Notice the locating pins molded into the lower body. These pins snap into holes in the chassis so the body would always locate during the construction process. Once sanded out, that mess is gone, and I had little worry about any of this ghosting back after painting. There is still one major part to go before any paint would get applied. I like the engines in my models to have some type of power adder. For this one I was thinking about a Latham supercharger that is found in the AMT Double T kit. As it is, it has side-mounted carbs, which is cool looking, but I wanted something different. While diving deep into the Latham supercharger rabbit hole, I came across all types of interesting combinations. But when I saw this setup, with the adapter manifolds to mount 3 carbs straight up, that is exactly what I was thinking. The fact that this is a real setup even made it cooler. So I got busy and carved the adapter manifolds out of evergreen, and then got on the phone with Norm Weber at Replicas and Miniatures Company of Maryland to get some goodies for it. His carbs, scoops, and headers were exactly what was needed. Also in that care package was his Duval windshield frame, stock firewall, and fin drum brakes. A chopped grill shell from Model Car Garage was also mocked up with a modified radiator structure. And now it looks like a hot rod. It's getting close to paint and detail. One detail that is low on my fun list is radiator hoses. When putting a custom engine in a custom car, these always have to be made custom. Here's how I do them. I start with a piece of solder that is bent to shape. Then I put heat shrink tubing over that. Apply heat and it'll suck down. Now it's black and can be tweaked into place for final assembly. The body was first painted with Tester's Pagan Gold lacquer, which really didn't light me up. So I dug into my Pearl potions and lotions and started adding orange and gold accents, which gave it much more depth. It was all sealed in Tamiya TS13 lacquer. The majority of the chrome on this model is alclad. Here the chassis is starting to come together. The interior floor is flocked with custom mixed colors. The dark brown accent color is Tester's Root Beer. Lots more alclad was used for the various engine and chassis bits. As it was nearing completion, here's some hard to see detail that is obscured by the grille and radiator. The machine pulleys are a random set that I mixed and matched from years of collecting those types of things. Here's a candid bench photo, as it was almost done. So let's check out the finished model today. Despite being built more than a decade ago, the Goldenrod is holding up pretty well, and the studio lights really make the paint pop. Most die-hard hot rodders would consider this an East Coast style, due to the deeply channeled body and Z'd chassis. That blown Hemi with those 6 carbs up in the air, combined with the Duval windshield frame, really give this model a tough attitude. The wide white slicks with 48 Ford hubcaps complement the early 60s look I was shooting for. The interior is tight and has more style over comfort. It was painted with Tamiya TS7 Racing White, which complements the Tester's Root Beer accents. The dash got detailed with parts from a Model Car Garage 44 detail set. The detailed deco clock on the glove box is one of my favorite details. The engine is really the showpiece, with lots of linkages and fuel lines happening up top. Fishing line was used for the fuel lines and were intentionally ran a bit loose to make them stand out a bit. The separate Hemi plug boots are some of the many Replicas and Miniatures Company of Maryland parts used throughout this model. Out back, 1939 Ford taillights with photo-etched bezels flank a custom-made, period-correct Florida 1961 license plate. The numbers reference 1932 and 6-pack. Underneath is clean as the top, with the gold and root beer contrasting each other, complementing lots of alclad chrome. To help this one get over speed bumps, I scratch built some detailed shockwave style air shocks for the rear suspension, which could raise the rear to a suitable cruising height. This is the only non-period correct component on the model. To complement the Goldenrod, I have this fantastic box stock Revell 32 Ford Roadster built by my good friend Tommy May. It easily illustrates the modifications made. When placed side by side, how low the car is apparent. The top of the body is less than 30 scale inches off the ground. I hope you enjoyed seeing how the Goldenrod was designed and built. And as always, like, comment, subscribe, you know what to do, because I have all kinds of model car stories to tell. Thanks for watching. Let's put this one on the turntable.